after the trip in Yunnan with Song Song. I hope to lead 16 days. If anybody's interested in it, it's a trek across some of the most wild country from the Noon River, the Salween, all the way to the Burma border. Rhododendrons, azaleas, the flowers are absolutely stunning. And that's what we hope to see also in Yunnan. So this is the Noon Valley. Again, these are his contribution, not mine. And it has amazing diversity of butterflies. Salamanders, I know butterflies fairly well, but these are sort of related to the buckeye. That's a birdwing, or thopteran. And swallowtail, this is the Bhutanese swallowtail. Very, very rare. And we get newts in the Pacific Northwest, but this has quite a different color to it. Gibbons, the tremendous bird diversity in barbets, the Darjeeling woodpecker, minivets, thrushes, unias. So these are contributors who go to Baoshan and Gaochan National Park. And they're hides, so these people can just sit there in a hide, they bait it, birds come right up. I do not claim that's not my photography, that's some contributors. I love trogons though. I'm not sure what species that is. And I think that's the wood owl, the blue-red star. Some of the animals you would see, I think that was, boy, is anybody a trogon expert? I can say it, and that's a guess. I think it's the red-naped trogon. There's a cat that occurs, the blue-eared barbet. There are so many birds here that are similar to what we have in the Northwest, but increase the number of species by 40 to 50. 50 different kinds of chickadees versus 2 in our area, North America. Let's see, nuthatch. Sorry, I can't name them. I think the one up in the center is a minla. This is a chickadee, but I'm not sure. That I recognize, that's the mono, the Chinese. Well, getting in the area not familiar, this is Jade Mountain. It is a beautiful wild preserve, but unfortunately they've developed it into a big show for Chinese festivals, for the cultural festival that they do. They've turned it into a big zoo. It was once wild, and 20 years ago it was all developed for gondola lift up to the snowfields, and so there's not much there. But on the backside is the wild tiger-leaping gorge, and that is so commercial. But what an amazing habitat at one time. We're at 10,000-foot elevation. And then the Mekong River, and parts of it are unique in that I didn't know you had cactus in Asia, but you do, because that's what we eat, the flowers and the fruit, and actually prickly pear cactus we make in Arizona. So in the area of Hacheng, we were privileged. The first park to visit was Snub-Nosed Monkey National Park. And here, again, it was a little bit difficult to understand why, but there is villages within the forest, and they're doing some slash and burn. They try to regulate it, and some cutting for their trees. But what's unique is that this area is preserved. So here you've got a forest of oak, hickory, maple, dogwoods. We get dogwoods in the Pacific Northwest. We're trying to think of hazel, witch hazel. Oh my gosh, maple, tan oak, which occurs in California. Many, many kinds of trees, and this is beards lichen that you see in the left. Unfortunately, this is what I did my master's thesis on, and what woodland caribou eat and deer eat during the winter. They thrive on this during certain stress times of snow during the winter from January to about March. I could give you the species names, but interestingly, this is what the snub-nosed monkey feeds on. So at one time you had wild pig, you had sandbar, you had musk deer, clouded leopard, leopard cat, quite a diversity of mammals. Squirrel, I'm not certain, probably the serow here. But the forest was just beginning to turn in the fall, and it was a pleasant walk. They have a beautiful boardwalk that goes up, and it has interpretation of the different plants. And like my Olympic National Forest at home, full of epiphytes, full of moss and ferns. And this was contributed by Adrian. These are, you're going to have to help me. Those are, oh my gosh, the ink's right in the tip of my tongue. No, these are lady slippers orchids on the right. We get a species like this, Cyprinium. Why can't I think of these? My gosh, it's not begonia, it's something, it's a plant that we use as an ornamental in the States. My grandfather's favorite plant, of course I forgot that. It's my wife and the guy walking up the trail with an umbrella. Really hardcore. The bird diversity is amazing there. And again, only this magpie is a shot I got, but the rest are the eared pheasant, lady ammon pheasant, grouse, chucker. We've introduced chucker into the Northwest. The pheasant diversity is amazing. Again, these are not my bird shots. It's a rose finch. And the rhododendron diversity is quite amazing in the spring as well. These are cheat shots from the fall, but the diversity here is greater than the fall. And you're probably familiar with fire-tailed sunbird and minlas will feed on nectar and rhododendrons when they come in bloom. A warbler, laughing thrush, spotted thrush. And I pretty much stuck on that. There is like a dipper, a water ouzel that we have. So these are the snub-nosed monkeys. These are tough guys, amazing. And I thought, oh good, I'm going to go and try and photograph these in the wild, spend the day stalking. Park guard has a big pack sack full of beards lichens in his pack. And I come up in this little go-kart, because they take tourists up in the go-kart, and there's a whole wall of nature photographers with big lenses. So I thought I'd poo on that one. We just ended up hiking up the trail. Came back, and all the photographers were gone after 4 hours. And boom, boom, boom. Nobody to disturb me, so it was kind of fun. But these are habitual. They're wild, but they're semi-tame. And you can see the lichens in their hands. Male. They're quite amazing, enduring animals. They have a slow reproductive rate. So China has really gone all out to try and preserve them. This looked like Star Wars. What's that? You know, that creature that Whoopi? No, I don't like Star Wars movies. Okay. Sorry, there's no sound. Clouded leopard fed on these. That was one of their primary prey. This guy is so cute. At least I thought so. My wife didn't.
How high up were they on the canopy?
This is about, oh, in the canopy?
How high up were they?
Oh, this is only about 10 meters,
Oh.
8 meters. But they're habituated, they're down, and they're eating these clumps of lichens that You know, they'll be all over. They're very hard to track in the forest. They're hard to research because it's such rotten weather. What's neat about Yunnan is it's not extremely cold because you've got the southern monsoon winds coming up. So it's amazing the rainfall that they endure. It's like my home in Seattle, or the Olympic rainforest and the British Columbia coastal, pours and pours. So these are some of the cats. These are Chinese contributors. Leopard cat, the Himalayan black bear. Oh gee, what is that pheasant? You guys might know. Sorry. The Sika deer, or the musk deer, and that's sambar, and that's the munchak, the small, what do you call that? Musk deer? No, what's the name? Munchak. M-U-T-N-J-A-C, I can't remember its. And in the weasel family, the giant squirrel. This is the palm civet, which comes out at night. This really harasses people, the Nepalese that are trying to build plantations with cardamom. The bears and these palm civets come and rob their crops. And gorals, these are again shots from guys in Mammal Watch. So I'm very, very thankful. This is camera trap of wild pigs. Sambar, that's wild panda. Okay, this is a seral, which is the closest relative to the mountain goat that we have in the Pacific Northwest. It's in the Antilocaprinae family. So, who can guess? I'll buy you a latte if you can guess what that animal is. I'll give the prize.
I've read so much about it, I can't see it.
Kind of looks like a musk oxen.
It's
Kind of looks like a wildebeest. Kind of confusing on its.
no, the one found in the Himalayas.
Yes.
Kingdom what wrote about? Never seen.
It's called the takin.
Takin.
T-A-K-I-N.
There's zoos in Bhutan and all that.
In Bhutan, there's supposed to be a zoo. I've not seen it.
Yeah, I've not seen it either.
But they're quite aggressive. They have a mating season during the fall. They go up in the alpine and then the lower forest in the winter. So they're a primary prey of leopard. So these are other people's shots, and I thank them. China's trying to promote, these photographers are trying to promote greater preservation. They've really got an uphill battle. So I'm backing them as best I can. And this is the area north of Taching. We drove for about 4 more hours and came up into Sitsong. And next day, raining. What are we going to do? We got to do this. So we go up in a 4-wheel drive, ascend up through the Yangtze River, and they're building a great big giant dam where they're relocating the entire village. I mean, every 30 miles, you see a new dam building. It's just mind-blowing how they're destroying the rivers. So this is Nanchiolo, and this is area of Gorge, but oh my goodness, this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. It was like a Chinese watercolor, and I'm sorry you can't hear the sound. I'll give you a little bit of idea. Pouring down rain, but we had a ball. It was just packed with different rhododendron leaves. Of course, no flowers, so you can't ID them. But there's one called rhododendron cinnamomea, which has a cinnamon-like bark. Really, really neat. So many azaleas. So can you imagine hiking this spring? I'm looking forward to it, when it's just full of wildflowers.
What was the temperature back then?
Sorry?
The temperature.
Oh, it's probably,
Approximately.
I have to convert Celsius.
No, Fahrenheit.
I'd say about 50 to 45 degrees, which would be what, about 15 Celsius?
So cold.
15 to 20? And the forest was beginning to turn, and here you had gigantic trees. We get Sitka spruce that would come from this sign to the left all the way to your wall. There were spruce in this forest, fir and hemlock that were probably thicker than the screen. So about half the size of some of the largest trees we get in the Pacific coast. This tree was gigantic. That's a spruce. So the forests, as you can see, are filled with lichens. This is prime snub-nosed monkey habitat, filled with rhodiots in the understory. That's a cheat shot again, what it would look like in the spring. But these were in flower. We have fireweed in the northwest, same you have in Yunnan. True firs in the 80s. You have kinnikinnick, an Arctic willow. Gentian, which occurs in the northwest, a completely different species of gentian, blooming in the fall. I was amazed. So this gives you an idea, even in the rain, this place was absolutely stunning. It was just a fairyland. So there's a series of 3 lakes. This is a lower lake, next lake up above, and then another lake up above with waterfalls. And the canyon, you're surrounded with waterfalls that are roaring. I wish the color would show up better than it does here. It's just like I'm in BC, Canada. It's one of the wildest spots I've ever seen. And yet you can drive to it. Many alpine plants, again, the diversity thing. So from here then we crossed into this ridge, down into the Mekong River, the Langkang River, and ascended north towards the Tibetan border to Dechen, it's called, and Meili. So a different diversity. This is Baima Snow Mountain. And my wife, unfortunately, is affected by asthma, so she was a bit affected by the altitude. So she was kind of shuffling like she was in her 90s, but I stayed with her. The larch, are you familiar with alpine larch? It's a tree that's native to the Canadian Rockies. 2 species here. Beautiful golden color in the fall. We're a little bit early, and it drops its needles. It's one of the conifers. This place is packed with squirrels, full of warblers and finches. Most of the birds were ready to descend. It's just, being in Singapore is kind of like being in jail for me. I don't know how you feel. I know you're here because you love nature, but it's just so refreshing to hear a river, and hear a stream, and just the gurgling. I need help with this plant. I don't know what it is. And that's gentian. This, I think, is for like a forget-me-not in the northwest, but I don't know what it is. And we grosbeaks, which we have a similar species in the northwest. And this is a familiar warbler. I better not give the name because I'll mess it up. This is almost related like to our hairy woodpecker to the right. These are bird photographers again that contribute. And this is the Kajich pheasant, which occurs not only at high elevations, but I've seen it in Thailand. In the lower Huang Kan Kai and Kan Krachan National Park. And the Zilicaean swallow. And I love these birds, the dippers. They bob up and down and they nest under waterfalls and pick up
Bugs.
yes, but caddisflies, stoneflies.
They walk underwater.
Yeah, they're amazing.
It's like, wow.
And from our hotel, it rained, and from our bedroom at 5:30 in the morning, we get a wake-up call. We got a little fireplace, which I made the mistake, I want a romantic fire for my wife. So they said, well, you better not, because it can smoke you out. Oh, I know how to build fire since a kid. So I got the thing going, a little smoky at first, and then got it hot up through the chimney, and finally it was just crackling. Then a wind came. All the smoke descended down, blew us out of the room. We were out of it for an hour and a half. Smoke, you couldn't see through, I couldn't get the fire out. So the romantic, charming room didn't work. This is an area, what's interesting is in Nepal, in the Himalayas, you get barren grasslands up at the higher altitudes. Here, it's like the Pacific Northwest. Alpine meadows go right up to the ice fields, filled with flowers, especially flowers of primulas. In Bima Snow Mountains, so these are a couple areas where you get a chance to wander. These are not my shots, but this is what it's sort of like in the spring. Wild lilies. This is something I have collected seeds of in the Pacific Northwest. We have about 8 or 9 species that have such a fragrance, and they live in the volcanic soils. So these are, this is Xiao Qing and Achu, and I can't give all the names, were contributors to these flower photographs. Some of them are with their cell phones. So it's amazing. So this is what I hope to see in a couple of months. Different species of rhodis. This is like the bearberry family and the ericaceae family, or the like blueberries, huckleberries, cranberries. This is, oh, that's the edelweiss.
The what?
You get edelweiss.
Oh.
It's in the composite family in the European Alps. Never been in the European Alps, but I remember sound of music.
What's that amazing?
And the sound. That is an Areniaceae. It's like a tropical plant, but I can't name. This is a, I don't know how you pronounce it, clematis. This is in the Rian family. This is that plant that ends up incubating. It's very, very tall, up to a very, very high altitude. The seeds inside. This is in the pea family. Campanula, Scrophulariaceae, or the, what do you call them, larkspur. I don't know these names in Chinese. She gave me a book, and it's in Chinese characters, not in English. But there's Latin names in English. And unfortunately, my wife blew it. She was naughty when she was a child. She was raised in Medan, Indonesia, but was supposed to take Chinese lessons because she's Chinese. Well, she always played sick. So she can speak Mandarin, but she can't read and write it, so I'm paying for that. This is interesting fungus. Yunnan is known for its diversity of fungus. The earthworm fungus, and this is used in Chinese medicine, but it's traded along with the Tibetan horses for tea.